Imagine you're scrolling through your phone after a long day when you see that comment. You know the one. Maybe it's a passive-aggressive text from your mother-in-law, a dismissive email from your boss, or just some stranger on social media saying something that makes your blood boil. Your fingers are already moving, crafting the perfect comeback. Your heart's racing. That familiar heat is rising in your chest. You're about to hit send on something you'll probably regret in about 3 seconds. Sound familiar? Or maybe it's not digital. Maybe it's your teenager rolling their eyes at you for the 100th time today. Your partner leaving dishes in the sink again. A coworker taking credit for your idea in that meeting. That moment when someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel yourself about to lose it completely. We've all been there. That split second when we go from zero to furious, from calm to completely overwhelmed, from rational human being to, well, someone we don't particularly like very much. Here's what I want you to know right up front: you're not broken. This isn't a character flaw. You're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. The invisible prison we've all built. What you're experiencing is actually your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, about 50,000 years ago. Back when our biggest worry was whether that rustling bush contained dinner or something that wanted us for dinner, this lightning-fast reaction system kept us alive. But here's the thing, your brain hasn't gotten the memo that you're no longer dodging saber-toothed tigers. It's still treating your mother-in-law's text like a life-or-death emergency. The same alarm system that once saved your ancestors from becoming something's lunch is now making you snap at your kids over spilled cereal. And in today's world, this ancient wiring is working against us in ways we're only beginning to understand. Think about it. How many times has an impulsive reaction left you feeling drained, regretful, or disconnected from the people who matter most? Research shows that unchecked emotional reactions are behind most conflicts, damaged relationships, sky-high stress levels, and those decisions we lie awake regretting at 2 a.m. The numbers are staggering. 74% of adults felt overwhelmed by stress last year alone. That's not just a personal struggle, it's an epidemic. And here's the kicker: our digital age is making it worse. Social media and instant communication are literally collapsing the space between something happening and us reacting to it. We're being trained to respond now, think later. But what if I told you there's another way? The 20-second revolution. What if I told you that the difference between feeling out of control and being the calm, confident person you want to be comes down to about 20 seconds? Maybe less. I'm talking about a tiny pause, so brief you might not even notice it, that can completely transform how you show up in the world. It's the space between something happening to you and what you choose to do about it. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and brilliant psychiatrist, put it perfectly: between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space. That's where the magic happens. Here's what's incredible about this: your brain is already equipped for this transformation. You have a sophisticated CEO living right behind your forehead, your prefrontal cortex, whose job is to make thoughtful decisions, consider consequences, and help you act in line with your values. The problem is, your ancient alarm system, the amygdala, gets the message first and starts screaming, "Emergency," before your wise CEO even knows what's happening. But here's the beautiful truth: even a pause of 10 to 20 seconds is often enough to let your inner CEO take the wheel. And when that happens, everything changes. This isn't about becoming a robot. Let me be crystal clear about something: this journey isn't about suppressing your emotions or becoming some sort of unfeeling Zen master. Your emotions are important messengers. They're telling you something valuable about your needs, your boundaries, and what matters to you. This is about something far more powerful: freedom. The freedom to choose who you are in every single moment. The freedom to respond from your values instead of your wounds. The freedom to build the relationships you actually want, instead of the ones your reactions are creating. Imagine what your life might look like if you could. Turn disagreements into deeper understanding instead of explosive arguments. Feel that anxiety loosen its grip and be replaced by calm confidence. Make decisions based on wisdom instead of whoever's pushing your buttons that day. Build stronger, more authentic relationships where people actually want to be around you. Stop lying awake replaying conversations and wishing you'd handled things differently. This isn't fantasy, it's neuroscience. Your brain has this amazing quality called neuroplasticity, which basically means it can rewire itself based on what you practice. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, you're literally building new neural pathways. You're training your brain to default to thoughtfulness instead of reactivity. What you can expect from our journey together. Over the coming chapters, we're going to dive deep into this transformation together. But I want to give you a roadmap so you know where we're headed. First, we'll explore why you react the way you do. We'll uncover the fascinating, and sometimes frustrating, ways your brain processes threats, how past experiences shape your triggers, and why modern life seems designed to keep you on edge. Understanding the why isn't about blame, it's about compassion for yourself and clarity about what you're working with. Then we'll get practical. Really practical. You'll learn how to create that crucial pause in real time, even when your emotions are running high. We'll explore mindfulness, not as some mystical practice, but as a practical daily skill that builds your emotional resilience from the inside out. You'll discover how patience becomes your secret superpower, and no, it's not about gritting your teeth and waiting. We'll dive into managing criticism and sensitivity without losing yourself or building walls. And you'll learn how to transform conflicts in your relationships from destructive battles into opportunities for deeper connection. Throughout it all, we'll weave together the latest research with ancient wisdom, practical techniques with deep insights, giving you a toolkit that works in real life, not just in theory. The ripple effect. Here's what I've learned after years of studying this and working with thousands of people: when you master the pause, you don't just change your own life. You change the lives of everyone around you. Your kids watch you handle frustration with grace and learn that's possible for them too. Your partner experiences you as truly present and emotionally safe. Your coworkers see someone who can navigate challenges without losing their cool. You become the person others turn to when things get tough, not because you never struggle, but because you've learned how to struggle well. You become a force for calm in a reactive world. Your journey starts now. The journey begins with a simple recognition: in this very moment, you have more power than you might realize. You don't have to wait until you finish this book, complete some program, or reach some mythical level of enlightenment. Right now, you can take a conscious breath. You can notice your body settling. You can choose to be here, present with these words, instead of mentally racing ahead or getting lost in yesterday's regrets. That's it. That's the pause that changes everything. Are you ready to reclaim the power that's been yours all along? Are you ready to discover what becomes possible when you stop reacting and start responding? Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Automatic Habit: Why Your Brain Hijacks You, and It's Not Your Fault. Picture your brain like a house with two very different roommates. In the basement, you've got this really old, really paranoid security guard who's been on the job for about 50,000 years. His name is Amy, short for amygdala, and his one job is to keep you alive by scanning for danger 24/7. Amy is really good at his job. The moment he spots anything that even remotely looks like trouble, that swerving car, a raised voice, a critical email, even just someone giving you a weird look, he hits the panic button. Hard. When Amy sounds the alarm, your body floods with stress hormones. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your breathing gets shallow. You're ready to either fight whatever's threatening you or run like hell. This is the famous fight or flight response, and it happens faster than you can think. Literally. Now, upstairs in the penthouse lives your wise CEO, your prefrontal cortex. Let's call her Sophia. She's brilliant, thoughtful, great at seeing the big picture and considering consequences. She's the one who helps you make good decisions, be patient with difficult people, and act like the person you actually want to be. But here's the problem: Amy gets the memo first. By the time Sophia even knows something's happening, Amy has already flooded the building with alarm bells and stress hormones. Your ancient security system is screaming, "Emergency," while your wise CEO is still trying to figure out what's going on. Scientists have discovered that our brains start making decisions up to 7 seconds before we're even consciously aware of them. Your unconscious mind, processing information at 11 million bits per second, has already decided how to react before your conscious mind, plugging along at a mere 40 bits per second, even knows there's a decision to be made. This is why you sometimes hear yourself saying something and think, "Where did that come from?" It came from Amy, your overzealous security guard, trying to protect you from a threat that probably isn't actually life-threatening. The good news? Even just 10 to 20 seconds is usually enough time for Sophia to get involved. That tiny pause, that's where your power lives. Your personal emotional landmines. Now, Amy doesn't just react randomly. He's got a very specific list of things that set him off, and that list was written by your life experiences. These are your emotional triggers, the specific words, situations, people, or even smells that can instantly transport you from calm to reactive. Maybe you automatically bristle when someone questions your competence at work. Perhaps you feel your chest tighten when anyone raises their voice, even slightly. Or maybe a certain tone of voice can instantly make you feel like you're 8 years old again, getting scolded by a parent. Here's what's happening: your brain has this incredible ability to connect present experiences to past ones. It's trying to protect you based on what it learned before. If you were constantly criticized as a child, your brain learned that criticism equals danger. So now, even gentle feedback from your boss triggers that same alarm system. Think about Sarah, a project manager who poured her heart into a presentation. When her manager mentioned that a few slides seemed unclear and rushed, Sarah's instant internal response wasn't, "Okay, I can fix that." It was, "I'm a complete failure. They think I'm incompetent. I'm going to get fired." That's not Sarah being dramatic, that's her brain connecting current feedback to old wounds and sounding the alarm. Her manager wasn't attacking her, they were just giving feedback about slides. But Amy doesn't distinguish between a performance review and a tiger attack. Threat is threat. The beautiful thing about understanding this is that once you can identify your personal triggers, you start to see them coming. It's like learning to recognize the weather patterns before the storm hits. The need to be right, and why it's sabotaging you. Beyond our caveman security system and our personal trigger collection, there's another major player in the reactivity game: your ego. Now, when I say ego, I don't mean arrogance, though it can show up that way. I'm talking about that part of you that needs to maintain your sense of self, your identity, your place in the world. And one of its favorite ways to do that? By being right. Think about the last argument you had. Were you really listening to understand the other person's perspective? Or were you mentally preparing your rebuttal while they were still talking? If you're honest, and we've all been there, you were probably more focused on winning than on understanding. This is your ego building what I call invisible walls. The moment you feel your ideas being challenged, your character questioned, or your importance diminished, these walls shoot up. You stop listening. You stop being curious. You stop looking for solutions. All your energy goes into defending your position and proving you're right. I see this all the time in workplaces. A leader who can't take feedback becomes a micromanager. Team members who are more focused on being right than being effective create toxic environments where nobody feels heard or valued. The ego creates this weird paradox: the more we need to be right, the less we actually listen. The less we listen, the more misunderstood we feel. And the more misunderstood we feel, the harder we fight to be right. It becomes this exhausting cycle where everyone's talking but nobody's really communicating. The hidden saboteurs. Now, even if you understand your triggers and you're working on managing your ego, there are some sneaky factors that can make reactivity feel almost inevitable on certain days. When you're running on empty. Ever notice how much more irritable you get when you're stressed out, exhausted, or just overwhelmed? That's not a character flaw, that's biology. When you're under chronic stress, your body is basically stuck in low-grade fight-or-flight mode. Your stress hormones are already elevated, your emotional reserves are depleted, and Amy, your security guard, is working overtime. It's like he's already got his finger on the panic button, just waiting for an excuse to press it. The Hunger Games. You've probably heard of being hangry, that special kind of irritability that hits when your blood sugar drops. It's real, and it's powerful. When your body is running low on fuel, your prefrontal cortex, remember Sophia, your wise CEO, doesn't function as well. She literally doesn't have the energy to override Amy's panic responses. Sleep deprivation, the ultimate reactivity booster. We've all been there. After a terrible night's sleep, everything feels harder. Your patience is paper thin, your emotional regulation is shot, and you find yourself snapping at people you care about over things that normally wouldn't bother you. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it impairs your prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotions and control impulses. You're literally working with compromised equipment. When your brain works differently. For some people, emotional reactivity isn't just about stress or poor sleep, it's wired into how their brain functions. If you have ADHD, for example, you might experience what's called emotional flooding or rejection-sensitive dysphoria, RSD. This isn't a character flaw or a lack of willpower. It's a neurological difference where the connections between your emotional and rational brain centers are weaker. A minor criticism that might roll off someone else's back can feel devastating, triggering an intense shame or anger response that feels completely disproportionate to the situation. Understanding this isn't about making excuses, it's about having compassion for yourself and recognizing when you might need extra support or different strategies. The real cost of living on autopilot. So what's the price tag for living in reactive mode? It's higher than most of us realize, and it touches every area of our lives. Your relationships pay the price. Every time we react instead of respond, we chip away at the trust and connection in our relationships. Those sharp words spoken in anger, the defensive walls we throw up, the times we listen just to argue back, they all create distance between us and the people we care about most. Research shows that workplace conflicts alone cost the global economy about $359 billion annually in lost productivity. But think about the personal cost, the conversations that turn into arguments, the misunderstandings that fester into resentment, the connections that slowly erode because nobody feels truly heard. Your health takes a hit. Living in chronic reactivity isn't just emotionally exhausting, it's physically destructive. When you're constantly flooding your system with stress hormones, your body pays the price. We're talking about increased anxiety, depression, difficulty concentrating, headaches, fatigue, digestive problems, and even serious conditions like heart disease and stroke. The statistics are sobering. 74% of adults in the UK reported feeling overwhelmed by stress in the past year. That's not just inconvenience, that's a health crisis. You become a passenger in your own life. Perhaps the biggest cost is this: when you're constantly reacting, you stop being the author of your own story. You become a pinball, bouncing off whatever happens to you instead of intentionally choosing your direction. You might find yourself sleepwalking through life, as researchers put it, living by default rather than by design. Your decisions get driven by whoever's pushing your buttons that day instead of your own values and goals. That's no way to build a life you're proud of. Here's the hope. Now, before you start feeling overwhelmed by all this, let me share the most important thing: none of this is permanent, and none of it is your fault. Understanding why you react the way you do isn't about shame or self-blame. It's about freedom. When you can see the patterns, you can start to change them. When you recognize Amy hitting the panic button, you can help Sophia get involved sooner. Your brain's reactivity patterns aren't character flaws, they're habits. And habits, while powerful, can be changed. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, every time you take a breath before responding, every time you ask yourself, what would my best self do here, you're literally rewiring your brain for better responses. The same neuroplasticity that created these automatic patterns can create new ones. You're not stuck with the reactions you have now. With understanding, practice, and patience, especially with yourself, you can become the person who stays calm under pressure, who listens before speaking, who responds from wisdom instead of wounds. Chapter 2: The Sweet Spot, Your Secret Weapon Against Reactivity. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps and went on to become one of the most influential psychiatrists of our time. From his experience of unimaginable suffering, he discovered something profound about human nature. He wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Read that again. Let it sink in. Between what happens to you and what you do about it, there's a space. It might be tiny, sometimes just seconds, but it's there. And in that space lives your freedom. Think about what this means. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're not doomed to repeat the same reactive patterns forever. You're not helpless against your emotions or other people's behavior. No. In that invisible gap between trigger and reaction, you have a choice. You can let Amy, your inner security guard, hit the panic button, or you can give Sophia, your wise CEO, a chance to weigh in. That space, that's where transformation happens. That's where you stop being a pinball bouncing off whatever life throws at you and start being the intentional architect of your responses. The science of your 20-second superpower. Here's what's actually happening in your brain during those crucial moments, and why this isn't just feel-good philosophy, it's neuroscience. When something triggers you, let's say someone sends you a really irritating email, your amygdala, Amy, processes that threat and immediately starts flooding your system with stress hormones. This happens lightning fast, often before you're even consciously aware you're upset. But here's the beautiful thing: your prefrontal cortex, Sophia, is also getting the message. She's just slower. She needs a moment to analyze the situation, consider your options, and access your values and long-term goals. Research shows that even a pause of just 10 to 20 seconds can be enough time for your rational brain to catch up and get involved. That's it. Less time than it takes to brush your teeth. During those seconds, something remarkable happens. Instead of your unconscious mind running the show at 11 million bits per second, your conscious mind, processing at 40 bits per second but with access to wisdom, values, and consequences, gets a chance to have its say. Every time you create this pause, you're literally rewiring your brain. Thanks to neuroplasticity, you're strengthening the neural pathways that lead to thoughtful responses and weakening the ones that lead to knee-jerk reactions. It's like building a muscle, except this muscle determines the quality of your entire life. Why this feels so impossible sometimes? If creating a pause is so simple and so powerful, why don't we do it more often? Why do we still find ourselves snapping at our kids, sending angry emails, or saying things we immediately regret? The answer lies in our modern world, which seems specifically designed to collapse that precious space between stimulus and response. The instant everything culture. We live in a world of one-click purchasing, instant messaging, and social media feeds that reward immediate reactions. Everything's urgent. Everything needs a response now. We've trained our brains to prioritize speed over wisdom. Think about it, someone posts something that annoys you on social media, and the platform is literally designed to make it as easy as possible for you to react instantly. Click, type, send. No pause, no reflection, just pure reaction. And then you wonder why online conversations turn into dumpster fires. The digital dopamine hit. Our phones and devices are engineered to be addictive, giving us little dopamine hits for quick responses and instant engagement. This trains our brains to crave immediate gratification and makes the idea of pausing feel almost painful. For some, it's even harder. If you have ADHD, anxiety, or you're just naturally a highly sensitive person, creating that pause can feel nearly impossible some days. Your brain might be wired to feel emotions more intensely or to struggle more with impulse control. But here's what I want you to know, the pause is still available to you. It might take more practice, more self-compassion, and maybe some different techniques, but it's absolutely within your reach. Your Pause Toolkit, simple techniques that actually work. Alright, let's get practical. How do you actually create this magical pause when your emotions are running high and every instinct is screaming at you to react right now? The power of your breath. Your breath is always with you, and it's one of the fastest ways to signal to your nervous system that you're safe. When you shift from shallow, rapid breathing to deep, slow breathing, you literally activate your body's rest and calm system. The 4-7-8 technique. This one's a game changer. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 7, then exhale through your mouth for 8, making a whoosh sound. The longer exhale tells your nervous system to chill out. Box breathing. Think of drawing a box with your breath. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Navy SEALs use this technique to stay calm under extreme pressure. If it works for them, it'll work for your difficult conversation with your teenager. The flower and candle. This one's gentler and perfect for public situations. Imagine smelling a flower, slow inhale through your nose, then trying to make a candle flicker without blowing it out, slow exhale through your mouth. Simple, effective, and nobody even knows you're doing it. The classic count. Remember being told to count to 10 when you were upset? Turns out your elementary school teacher was onto something. Counting redirects your brain's attention away from the emotional storm and towards something neutral and methodical. Start with 10. If you're still fired up, go to 20. Really steaming? Count to 100, count backwards, or count by threes. The specific number doesn't matter. You're just buying time for Sophia to show up to the meeting. Strategic retreat. Sometimes you need to physically remove yourself from the situation to create that space. And that's not only okay, it's smart. Call a timeout. I need to take a break. Let's revisit this in 10 minutes. This isn't avoiding the issue, it's approaching it strategically. You can even have a code word with your family or close friends. Something like, I need a moment, that signals you're feeling overwhelmed and need space to regulate. Change your scenery. Step outside, go to another room, even just excuse yourself to the bathroom. Splash cold water on your face. It actually triggers something called the mammalian dive reflex, that slows your heart rate. Take a walk. Movement is magic for emotional regulation. Even a quick walk to the mailbox can shift your perspective and burn off some of that stress energy. The STOP method, your emergency response plan. When you're in the thick of it and need a structured approach, remember STOP. Stop. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're about to say, just stop. Press pause on the whole situation. This is you recognizing that you're triggered and choosing not to proceed on autopilot. Take a breath. Use any of the breathing techniques we just talked about. Even one deep breath can begin to shift your state. Observe. Now that you've created a moment of calm, notice what's actually happening. What thoughts are racing through your mind? Are they facts or interpretations? What emotions are you feeling? Can you name them specifically? What's happening in your body? Tight jaw, tense shoulders, racing heart. What's really going on in the situation versus what story you're telling yourself about it? P. Proceed with awareness. Now you get to choose. What response aligns with your values? What will serve you and your relationships in the long run? What would your wisest, most centered self do here? This isn't about having perfect responses every time. It's about having conscious responses instead of unconscious reactions. What the pause is not. Let me clear up a huge misconception right now. The pause is not about stuffing down your emotions or pretending everything's fine when it's not. Your emotions are important messengers. They're telling you something valuable about your needs, your boundaries, or your values. The pause isn't about silencing these messengers, it's about giving yourself time to really hear what they're trying to tell you. Think of it this way, if someone knocked on your door in the middle of the night, you wouldn't just throw it open without checking who's there first, right? The pause is like looking through the peephole before you decide how to respond. You're not ignoring the knock, you're just gathering information before you act. Emotional suppression versus emotional awareness. Suppression is cramming your feelings into a box and pretending they don't exist. That leads to all sorts of problems, physical tension, anxiety, and eventually, explosive outbursts. The pause is the opposite. It's about creating space to actually feel what you're feeling, understand it, and then choose how to express it in a way that serves you and your relationships. Healthy detachment. Sometimes the pause leads to what we call healthy detachment. This isn't about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about consciously choosing not to get emotionally entangled in someone else's drama or dysfunction. You can still love someone and choose not to take on their emotional chaos. You can care about someone and still protect your own peace. That's not selfish, that's wise. The ripple effect. What changes when you master the pause? When you start consistently creating this space between trigger and response, something beautiful happens. The changes ripple out into every area of your life. Your relationships transform. Instead of saying things you regret, you start having conversations that actually solve problems. Instead of defensive arguments, you have discussions where people feel heard. Trust builds because people know they can count on you to respond thoughtfully, even when things get difficult. Your decision-making gets clearer. When you're not making choices from a place of emotional overwhelm, you make better choices. You align your actions with your long-term goals and values instead of just reacting to whatever's loudest in the moment. Your stress drops dramatically. Living reactively is exhausting. When you stop fighting every emotional wave and start learning to ride them skillfully, your whole nervous system relaxes. You sleep better, your health improves, and you have more energy for the things that actually matter. You become someone others trust. People start coming to you when they're struggling because they know you won't just react to their problems, you'll respond with wisdom and care. You become a calm presence in a reactive world. Your 20-second revolution starts now. Here's what I want you to do right now, before you even finish this chapter. Think of a situation that typically triggers you. Maybe it's your partner leaving dishes in the sink, your boss sending emails after hours, or your child having a meltdown in public. Now, instead of imagining your usual reaction, imagine this: you feel that familiar surge of frustration, but instead of immediately responding, you take one slow, deep breath. 4 counts in, 7 counts hold, 8 counts out. In those 19 seconds, your brain chemistry literally changes. Your wise mind gets a chance to engage. You have a moment to remember who you want to be in this situation. That's not fantasy, that's your new reality waiting to unfold. The pause isn't a destination, it's a practice. You won't master it overnight, and you'll still have moments where you react before you remember to pause. That's not failure, that's being human. But every time you choose the pause over the reaction, every time you create that sweet spot of conscious choice, you're rewiring your brain for a better way of being. You're building the life you actually want instead of just reacting to the one that's happening to you. Chapter 3, Mindful Mastery, Training Your Brain to Actually Like the Pause. You know that friend who always seems unflappable? The one who stays calm in traffic, listens without getting defensive, and somehow never seems to have emotional meltdowns in the grocery store checkout line. You might think they were just born that way, some kind of genetic lottery winner with naturally chill DNA. But here's the secret they probably won't tell you: they've trained their brain to work differently. And you can too. That training? It's called mindfulness. But before you roll your eyes and picture yourself sitting cross-legged on a mountaintop humming poem, let me tell you what mindfulness really is, and what it definitely isn't. Mindfulness, not what you think, thank goodness. When most people hear mindfulness, they immediately think of meditation apps, silent retreats, or people who somehow have time to sit still for an hour every morning. If that's you, I totally get it. I used to think the same thing. But here's the truth: mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind, achieving perfect zen, or becoming some kind of emotionless robot. It's much simpler and way more practical than that. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to what's happening right now, without judging it. That's it. You don't need special clothes, expensive cushions, or hours of free time. You just need to hit the record button on your internal awareness and watch what's happening, in your mind, in your body, around you, without immediately jumping to, this is good, or this is bad, or I need to fix this right now. Think of yourself as a curious scientist studying your own experience. When you're mindful, you're not trying to control what you find, you're just observing it with genuine interest. This might sound almost too simple to be effective. Trust me, it's not. This basic shift, from being lost in your experience to observing it, changes everything about how your brain processes emotions and stress. The 7 attitudes that change your life. Real mindfulness isn't just about the technique, it's about the attitude you bring to your experience. Think of these as the foundational beliefs that make everything else possible. Non-judgment. Instead of constantly labeling your thoughts as stupid or your emotions as wrong, you just notice them. Interesting, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure, instead of I am a failure. Acceptance. This doesn't mean being passive or giving up. It means seeing reality clearly before you decide what to do about it. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Letting go. Thoughts and feelings are like clouds, they come and they go. You don't have to cling to the good ones or fight the difficult ones. You can just let them pass through. Patience. Change takes time, and that's okay. You don't have to master this overnight or have perfect responses to every situation. Beginner's mind. Approaching each moment with curiosity, as if you're experiencing it for the first time. This keeps you open to new possibilities instead of stuck in old patterns. Trust. Believing in your own inner wisdom and capacity to handle whatever comes up. Non-striving, focusing on the process of awareness itself, rather than trying to achieve some perfect state of calm. These attitudes create the soil where real change can grow. They transform mindfulness from a technique you do to a way of being that naturally emerges. How mindfulness literally rewires your brain. Here's where it gets really exciting. Mindfulness isn't just feel-good philosophy, it creates measurable changes in your brain structure and function. Remember Amy, your amygdala, and Sophia, your prefrontal cortex, from earlier chapters. Mindfulness practice actually turns down the volume on Amy's alarm system while strengthening Sophia's ability to think clearly and make wise decisions. Research shows that consistent mindfulness practice shrinks your amygdala. Your emotional alarm system becomes less reactive over time. Strengthens your prefrontal cortex. your wise decision-maker gets more resources and better connections. Improves neuroplasticity, your brain becomes better at forming new, healthier patterns. But here's the really cool part, studies show that even people who don't practice mindfulness daily still get significant benefits. In one study, only 41% of participants practiced every day during an 8-week program, but the whole group still experienced major improvements in well-being and emotional regulation. What this means for you, you don't have to be perfect at this. Even a few minutes here and there, even inconsistent practice, can create profound changes in how you experience life. The secret: emotion care versus emotion control. For years, psychology focused on emotion regulation, basically, trying to control or manage your feelings through techniques like distraction, suppression, or trying to think your way out of feeling bad. But mindfulness works differently. Instead of trying to control your emotions, it teaches what researchers now call emotion care. Think of it as the difference between trying to stop a river, impossible and exhausting, versus learning to navigate it skillfully. The 3 pillars of emotion care. Anchoring: when emotions feel overwhelming, you gently bring your attention back to something stable, your breath, your feet on the ground, the sounds around you. It's like dropping an anchor in choppy waters. Acceptance: instead of fighting difficult emotions or trying to make them go away, you allow them to be present. I notice I'm feeling really anxious right now, and that's okay. This is what anxiety feels like in my body. Decentering: this is the game changer. Instead of thinking, I am angry, you learn to observe, I'm having angry thoughts and feelings. You're not the storm, you're the awareness that can observe the storm. This shift from, I am my emotions, to, I'm experiencing emotions, creates incredible freedom. You're no longer at the mercy of every feeling that shows up. You become the calm center that can watch it all with compassion. Mindfulness in real life, no mountain required. Let's get practical. How do you actually build this skill in your regular, messy, busy life? Mindful breathing, your always available reset button. This is your fundamental tool, always accessible, instantly calming. How to do it: find a comfortable position and bring your attention to your breath. Don't change it, just notice it. Feel the air coming in through your nose, filling your lungs, then releasing. When your mind wanders, and it will, constantly, gently guide your attention back to your breath. The magic: even 30 to 60 seconds of this can shift your nervous system from stress mode to calm mode. It's like having a reset button you can press anytime, anywhere. The mini body scan, tuning into your early warning system. Your body often knows you're stressed before your mind catches up. A body scan helps you tune into these signals. How to do it: starting with your feet, slowly move your attention up through your body. Notice any tension, warmth, coolness, or other sensations. Don't try to change anything, just observe. Oh, my shoulders are really tight. Interesting. Why it works: this builds your awareness of physical stress signals, so you can catch reactivity before it takes over completely. Mindful walking, meditation in motion. You walk every day anyway, why not make it a mindfulness practice? How to do it: as you walk, bring your attention to the physical sensations, feet touching the ground, legs moving, arms swinging. Notice your surroundings without getting lost in mental commentary about them. The benefit: this turns a mundane activity into an opportunity for presence and stress relief. Mindful eating, savoring versus scrolling. How often do you eat while distracted, watching TV, scrolling your phone, working at your desk? How to do it: choose one meal or snack to eat mindfully. Look at your food, smell it, taste it. Chew slowly. Put your fork down between bites. Notice flavors, textures, and how your body responds. Why it matters: this practice builds your capacity to be present with whatever you're doing, rather than constantly multitasking your way through life. Mindful listening, the relationship game changer. This might be the most powerful practice for improving your relationships. How to do it: when someone is talking to you, give them your complete attention. Don't interrupt, don't plan your response, don't judge what they're saying. Just listen with genuine curiosity about their experience. The impact: people feel truly seen and heard, which builds trust and connection faster than almost anything else you can do. The practice paradox: why bad at meditation is actually good. Here's what nobody tells you about mindfulness: being bad at it means you're doing it right. Your mind is supposed to wander. That's what minds do. They think, they plan, they worry, they daydream. The practice isn't about stopping this, it's about noticing when it happens and gently bringing your attention back. Every time you catch your mind wandering and redirect it, you're doing a rep at the gym of awareness. You're strengthening your ability to notice when you're on autopilot and consciously choose where to place your attention. Think of it this way: you don't go to the gym expecting to lift the heaviest weights on day one. You start where you are and build strength over time. Mindfulness works the same way. Some days your mind will be relatively calm, other days it will be like trying to meditate in the middle of a tornado. Both are perfect opportunities to practice. The compound effect: small moments, big changes. The beauty of mindfulness is that you don't need huge chunks of time to see results. Research shows that even brief, consistent moments of mindfulness throughout your day can create significant changes in your brain and your life. The 1-minute rule: can you find 1 minute in your day to breathe mindfully? Maybe when you first wake up, before you get out of your car, or right before you go to sleep. Mindful transitions: use the moments between activities, walking from one room to another, waiting for your computer to start up, standing in line, as opportunities for brief mindfulness moments. Habit stacking: attach mindfulness to something you already do consistently. After I brush my teeth, I'll take 3 mindful breaths. These tiny moments accumulate into profound shifts in how you experience life. You're literally training your brain to default to awareness instead of autopilot, to respond instead of react. When mindfulness meets real-life stress. Let's be honest, it's one thing to be mindful when you're sitting quietly in your living room, and another thing entirely when your teenager is having a meltdown, your boss is being unreasonable, or you're stuck in traffic when you're already late. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all that practice pays off. When you've been training your awareness muscle through regular mindfulness practice, you start to catch stress reactions earlier. Instead of being completely swept away by frustration, you might notice, oh, my chest is getting tight. My thoughts are speeding up. This is what stress feels like in my body. That moment of recognition, that's your pause. That's your opportunity to choose a different response. Not because you're suppressing the stress, but because you're aware of it without being completely identified with it. You might still feel frustrated, but now you're the person who's aware of feeling frustrated, rather than just being frustration walking around in human form. Building your personal practice. The question isn't whether mindfulness works, the research is crystal clear that it does. The question is, what kind of practice will actually stick in your real life? Start ridiculously small, seriously. 1 minute. 3 deep breaths. That's it. Build from there only after the tiny habit is solid. Be curious, not critical. When you notice your mind wandering or when you forget to practice, treat it like interesting data rather than evidence that you're failing. Find what resonates. Some people love breathing practices, others connect more with body awareness or mindful movement. Experiment and see what feels natural for you. Use reminders, phone alarms, sticky notes, or apps that remind you to pause and breathe throughout the day. Remember, the goal isn't to meditate your way into never feeling stressed, angry, or overwhelmed again. It's to change your relationship with these experiences so they don't completely run your life. The ripple effect. When you start practicing mindfulness regularly, you'll notice changes that go far beyond feeling calmer. Clearer thinking: when you're not constantly caught up in mental chatter, you can see situations more clearly and make better decisions. Better relationships: when you're truly present with people, they feel it, and your connections deepen. Increased resilience: challenges don't knock you off balance as easily because you've practiced staying centered. More authentic living: when you're aware of your thoughts and feelings without being controlled by them, you can make choices that align with your true values. Chapter 4: The Virtue of Patience, Your Secret Superpower, and It's Not What You Think. Let me guess. When you hear the word patience, you probably think of something pretty unpleasant. Maybe it's sitting in a dentist's waiting room, drumming your fingers and checking your phone every 30 seconds. Or gritting your teeth while your internet takes forever to load. Or that special kind of torture we call being stuck in traffic when you're already late. Most of us think of patience as passive suffering, something we have to endure until whatever's frustrating us finally goes away. But what if I told you that's not patience at all? What if real patience is actually one of the most active, strategic, powerful skills you can develop? What if it's not about suffering through situations, but about gaining a massive advantage while everyone else is losing their minds? Welcome to Patience as Your Secret Superpower. What patience really is: plot twist, it's not waiting. Here's the thing about patience: it's not about sitting around hoping things will get better. It's not about being passive or powerless. Real patience is an intentional, strategic act of conscious reflection and choosing a thoughtful response rather than impulsively reacting. Think about a chess master. When their opponent makes a move, they don't immediately grab the first piece they see and slam it down somewhere. They pause. They study the board. They consider their options, think 3 moves ahead, and then make a deliberate, strategic move. That's active patience. That's using the pause we've been talking about, not just to avoid a bad reaction, but to gain a competitive advantage. While everyone else is reacting from their emotional brain, hello, Amy the amygdala, you're engaging your strategic brain, our friend Sophia the prefrontal cortex. While they're making decisions based on immediate impulses, you're making choices based on long-term thinking and your values. This isn't magic, it's emotional intelligence in action. How patience makes you emotionally intelligent. Remember emotional intelligence? It's that crucial ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions while also being able to read and influence the emotions of others. And guess what sits right at the heart of it? Patience. Self-awareness. When you practice patience, you become incredibly good at noticing your internal state. You feel that first flutter of irritation, that tightening in your chest, that urge to snap or shut down, and instead of being swept away by it, you observe it with curiosity. Interesting, I'm getting triggered right now. Self-regulation. This is where patience really shines. Instead of letting your emotions drive your behavior, you give yourself space to choose your response. You become the conscious author of your actions instead of a victim of your impulses. Research consistently shows that this connection between patience and peace of mind isn't just feel-good philosophy, it's measurable reality. When you develop patience, you literally experience less stress, better relationships, and a deeper sense of inner calm. The incredible benefits of your patience superpower. Let's talk about what patience actually gets you, because the payoffs are bigger than you might realize. Stress and anxiety drop dramatically. You know that feeling when you're stuck in traffic and you can feel your blood pressure rising? Your jaw clenching. Your mind racing through all the catastrophic consequences of being late. Now imagine this, same traffic, but this time you take a deep breath and think, well, this is what it is. I can't control the traffic, but I can control my response to it. You turn on a podcast, practice some breathing techniques, or just enjoy a rare moment of quiet in your busy day. Same external situation, completely different internal experience. That's the power of patience. When you stop fighting reality and start accepting what you can't control, your nervous system relaxes. Your cortisol levels drop. Your whole body shifts out of fight or flight mode. You're experiencing the same situation, but without all the self-created suffering. Your decision-making gets razor sharp. Think about the last time you made a decision you immediately regretted. I'm betting it was made quickly, probably when you were emotional or under pressure. Impulsive decisions, whether it's what to say in an argument, what to buy when you're stressed, or how to handle a work conflict, usually come from your emotional brain. And your emotional brain, while great at keeping you safe from tigers, is terrible at complex decision-making. Patience gives your rational brain time to engage. When you're patient, you can see the bigger picture. You step back and consider how this decision fits into your long-term goals and values. Avoid black and white thinking. Instead of seeing only two terrible options, you can explore creative alternatives. Gather more information. You're not rushed into choosing based on incomplete data. Consider consequences. You think through how your decision will affect not just you, but others as well. This leads to choices you're proud of, both in the moment and looking back later. Your relationships transform. Here's where patience becomes absolutely magical, in your relationships with other people. Think about the last argument you had. Were you really listening to understand the other person, or were you just waiting for your turn to prove why you were right? If you're honest, and we've all been there, you were probably crafting your rebuttal while they were still talking. That's not conversation, that's two people giving competing monologues. Patience changes everything. You actually listen. When you're patient, you give people space to fully express themselves. You listen to understand, not just to reply. This builds incredible trust and makes people feel truly heard. You communicate more clearly, because you're not rushing to defend yourself or prove a point. You take time to think about what you really want to say and how to say it constructively. You develop empathy. Patience allows you to step into someone else's shoes and genuinely consider their perspective, even when you disagree with them. One of the most powerful tools that emerged from research is the 24-hour rule for difficult communications. When you receive an email, text, or have an interaction that makes you want to fire back immediately, you wait 24 hours before responding. I can't tell you how many relationships this simple practice has saved. What feels urgent and critical in the heat of the moment often looks completely different after a night's sleep. You end up responding from wisdom instead of wounds. You build unshakable resilience. Life is going to throw curveballs at you. That's not pessimism, that's reality. Jobs end, relationships change, health issues arise, plans fall through. The question isn't whether you'll face challenges, it's how you'll respond to them. Impatient people tend to see setbacks as catastrophic. They react with panic, frustration, or despair, which makes it even harder to find solutions or adapt to new circumstances. Patient people have a completely different relationship with adversity. They accept what is. Instead of wasting energy fighting reality, they acknowledge the situation clearly and start working from there. Learn from experience. They see setbacks as information, not condemnation. What can this teach me? How can I grow from this? Bounce forward. They don't just recover from challenges, they use them as opportunities to become stronger and wiser. This is what researchers call bouncing forward instead of just bouncing back. You don't just return to where you were, you integrate the lessons and emerge better than before. Your patience toolkit, practical strategies that actually work. Alright, enough theory. How do you actually develop this superpower in real life? Strategy number 1, slow your body down. Your body and mind are intimately connected. When you're impatient, your body shows it, racing heart, tense muscles, shallow breathing. But you can use this connection to your advantage. Deep breathing, we've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. When you feel impatience rising, immediately shift to slow, deep breathing. This signals your nervous system to calm down. Progressive muscle relaxation, tense and then release different muscle groups. Start with your toes, work up to your head. This releases physical tension that feeds impatience. The strategic pause, give yourself permission to physically step away from situations when you feel overwhelmed. I need a moment to think about this, isn't avoiding the problem, it's approaching it strategically. Strategy number 2, expand your perspective. Impatience usually comes from tunnel vision. You're so focused on what's not working right now that you lose sight of the bigger picture. The October 10th, 10 rule, will this matter in 10 minutes? 10 months? 10 years? This question instantly puts things in perspective. Avoid all or nothing thinking. When you catch yourself thinking in absolutes, this always happens, people never listen, this is completely ruined, challenge yourself to find the middle ground. Focus on what you can control, make 2 lists, what you can control about this situation and what you can't. Put all your energy into the first list. Strategy number 3, change your internal dialogue. The voice in your head has incredible power over your emotional state. Impatient people tend to have impatient self-talk. Replace urgency with calm. Instead of, this is taking forever, try, things are unfolding at their own pace. Instead of, I can't stand this, try, this is challenging, and I can handle challenging things. Practice affirmations. I have all the time I need, I choose calm in this moment, everything happens in its right time. Reframe delays as opportunities, traffic jam becomes time for a favorite podcast. Waiting in line becomes a chance to practice mindfulness. A slow internet connection becomes a reminder to take a breathing break. Strategy number 4, embrace acceptance. This is perhaps the most challenging but most powerful aspect of patience. It's based on this profound truth, suffering equals pain times resistance. The pain is what's actually happening, the traffic, the delay, the difficult person. The resistance is your mental and emotional fight against what's happening. When you multiply pain by high resistance, you get enormous suffering. But when you reduce the resistance through acceptance, the suffering drops dramatically. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what's happening or that you won't work to change what you can. It means you stop wasting energy fighting reality and start working with it instead. Strategy number 5, the 24-hour rule in action. This deserves its own section because it's so powerful. When someone says or does something that triggers you, and you feel that familiar urge to respond immediately. 1. Acknowledge the trigger, I'm feeling really angry about this email. 2. Commit to waiting, I'm going to wait 24 hours before I respond. 3. Use the time wisely, process your emotions, consider different perspectives, think about your goals for the relationship. 4. Respond from clarity, when you do respond, it comes from a centered place rather than an emotional storm. This one practice alone can save your relationships, your reputation, and your peace of mind. Patience and delayed gratification, the secret to success. Here's something fascinating, patience isn't just about managing difficult moments. It's also the foundation of virtually every form of success and achievement. Remember the famous marshmallow experiment? Researchers offered children 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows if they could wait. The kids who could wait, who had developed patience and delayed gratification, performed better academically, had healthier relationships, and were more successful throughout their lives. This is because patience allows you to save money instead of spending impulsively. Invest in long-term goals rather than seeking immediate rewards. Build skills through consistent practice rather than expecting instant mastery. Maintain relationships through difficult periods rather than bailing at the first sign of conflict. Every time you choose patience over immediacy, you're building what researchers call your self-control muscle. And like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. The compound effect of small patient choices. Here's what's really exciting about developing patience. Small, seemingly insignificant patient choices compound over time to create radical differences in your life. Choosing to take 3 deep breaths instead of snapping at your child. Waiting an hour before responding to that irritating text. Staying with a challenging conversation instead of storming off. These moments seem tiny, but they add up. Each patient choice builds your confidence. You prove to yourself that you can handle difficult situations. Strengthens your relationships. People learn they can count on you to respond thoughtfully. Improves your reputation. You become known as someone who stays calm under pressure. Creates better outcomes. Patient responses usually lead to better solutions than reactive ones. Your patience practice starts now. I want to give you something practical you can try immediately. Think of one situation in your life that regularly triggers impatience. Maybe it's your commute during rush hour. Waiting for someone who's always late. Dealing with slow technology. Managing your children's bedtime routine. Handling interruptions at work. Now, instead of approaching this situation with your usual frustration, try this. 1. Before the situation, take 3 deep breaths and remind yourself, this is my opportunity to practice patience. 2. During the situation, when you feel impatience rising, pause and ask yourself, what would my most patient, wise self do here? 3. After the situation, acknowledge your effort, even if it wasn't perfect. I practiced patience today, and that matters. This isn't about being perfect. It's about building the patience muscle 1 rep at a time. The ripple effect. When you master patience, you don't just change your own experience, you change the experience of everyone around you. You become the parent who responds to tantrums with calm understanding instead of reactive frustration. The partner who listens fully before speaking, creating deeper intimacy and trust. The colleague who stays centered during stressful projects, making you someone people want to work with. The friend people turn to when they need wise counsel rather than just someone to vent with. You become a force for calm in a reactive world. Chapter 5, Fueling Your Inner Strength, the Foundation That Changes Everything. Picture this: you wake up after a terrible night's sleep, grab a sugary pastry and coffee for breakfast, sit in traffic feeling your stress levels rise, then spend 8 hours at a desk under fluorescent lights. By 3 p.m., your coworker makes one innocent comment and you nearly bite their head off. Sound familiar? Now imagine this instead: you wake up after 7 solid hours of sleep, eat a balanced breakfast, take a few minutes for some deep breathing, and get some movement into your day. When that same coworker makes that same comment, you pause, take a breath, and respond thoughtfully. Same person. Same external situation. Completely different response. Here's what I've learned after working with thousands of people, all those beautiful pause techniques we've talked about. The mindfulness practices. The patience strategies. They work so much better when you're taking care of your basic human needs. You can't expect your brain to choose wise responses when your body is running on fumes. Self-discipline versus willpower, the game-changing difference. Let's clear up a massive misconception right away. Most people think self-discipline and willpower are the same thing. They're not, and understanding the difference will revolutionize how you approach change. Willpower is like a muscle that gets tired. It's that burst of mental energy you use to resist the second slice of cake or force yourself not to check your phone for the 100th time. It's finite, it gets depleted, especially when you're stressed or tired, and by the end of a long day, it's often completely tapped out. That's why you can be disciplined about your diet all day and then demolish a bag of chips at 9 p.m. Your willpower muscle is exhausted. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is completely different. It's a proactive system of habits, routines, and environmental design that makes good choices easier and bad choices harder. It's about setting yourself up for success rather than relying on moment-to-moment mental strength. Here's the beautiful part: research shows that self-discipline isn't some genetic trait you either have or don't have. It's a learnable skill that gets stronger with practice. In fact, scientists have discovered that the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the brain region that controls willpower, literally grows and strengthens when you consistently engage in challenging tasks. Think of it this way: willpower is like sprinting, you can't do it for very long. Self-discipline is like training for a marathon, you build systems that allow you to go the distance. The magic of automatic excellence. The secret to self-discipline is making your best choices automatic. When something becomes a habit, you don't spend mental energy deciding whether to do it, you just do it. Consider brushing your teeth. You don't wake up each morning and have an internal debate about dental hygiene. You don't need to muster willpower or motivation. You just brush your teeth because it's automatic. Now imagine if responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively could become just as automatic. That's exactly what happens when you build the right foundation. Start ridiculously small. Remember the "make your bed" principle. Admiral William McRaven famously said that making your bed every morning gives you the first accomplishment of your day, sets a positive tone, and demonstrates that small things matter. It's a tiny act of discipline that creates momentum for bigger ones. This is the compound effect in action. Small, consistent behaviors stack up to create radical changes over time. Research shows that 95% of everything we feel, think, do, and achieve comes from learned habits. The power of if-then planning. One of the most effective strategies for building self-discipline is called implementation intentions, or if-then planning. Instead of vaguely hoping you'll make better choices, you pre-decide exactly what you'll do in specific situations. For example, if I feel myself getting irritated in a conversation, then I will take 3 deep breaths before responding. If I wake up at 6 a.m., then I will immediately put on my workout clothes. If I receive an email that annoys me, then I will wait 1 hour before replying. This pre-decision making automates better behavior and reduces your reliance on finite willpower. You're not deciding in the moment when your emotions are high, you're following a plan you made when you were calm and thinking clearly. The physical foundation: your brain needs these. Here's something that might surprise you: your ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively is directly connected to how well you're taking care of your physical body. Your prefrontal cortex, that wise CEO we've been talking about, requires significant energy to function properly. When your body isn't well fueled and rested, Sophia simply can't do her job effectively. Amy, your amygdala, takes over by default. Sleep, your non-negotiable foundation. Let's start with the big one: sleep. This isn't optional. When you're sleep deprived, your emotional regulation goes out the window. Small irritations feel massive. Your patience evaporates. Decision-making becomes impaired. Everything feels harder than it actually is. Consistently getting 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep literally fuels your brain's ability to choose wise responses. Think of sleep as recharging the batteries that power your best self. Quick sleep wins. Keep your bedroom cool and dark. Put devices away an hour before bed. Develop a consistent bedtime routine. If you can't fall asleep, try the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Nutrition, fuel for your brain. What you eat directly impacts your mental and emotional stability. Your brain uses about 20% of your daily calories. It's an energy-hungry organ that needs quality fuel to function optimally. Foods that support emotional regulation. Complex carbohydrates for steady energy. Lean proteins for neurotransmitter production. Healthy fats for brain health. Plenty of water for optimal brain function. Foods that sabotage your emotional stability. Sugar crashes that create mood swings. Processed foods that cause inflammation. Excessive caffeine that increases anxiety. Dehydration that impairs cognitive function. You don't need a perfect diet, but you do need consistent, balanced nutrition that keeps your blood sugar stable and your brain well-fed. Movement, your stress-busting superpower. Here's a statistic that will blow your mind. People who exercise regularly report 43.2% fewer poor mental health days in a month compared to non-exercisers. That's nearly half the number of days feeling mentally unwell. Exercise isn't just good for your body, it's essential for your emotional regulation. It processes stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. It releases mood-boosting endorphins. It literally wakes up your prefrontal cortex. It provides a healthy outlet for pent-up energy and emotions. You don't need to become a fitness fanatic. Even a 20-minute walk, some stretching, or dancing to your favorite songs can make a significant difference in your ability to stay centered. The self-compassion secret. Here's something crucial that most self-discipline advice gets wrong: lasting change requires self-compassion, not self-criticism. When you inevitably slip up, when you react instead of respond, skip your healthy habits, or fall back into old patterns, your inner critic might start screaming about how you're weak, undisciplined, or hopeless. That voice isn't helping. In fact, it's actively sabotaging your progress. Self-compassion means treating yourself like a good friend would. When a friend makes a mistake, you don't berate them or call them names. You offer understanding, encouragement, and help them get back on track. Research consistently shows that self-compassion actually improves motivation and resilience. It helps you bounce back from setbacks faster and maintain long-term change better than self-criticism ever could. The 3 components of self-compassion. 1. Self-kindness, speaking to yourself with the same gentleness you'd show a friend. 2. Common humanity, remembering that struggle and imperfection are part of the human experience. 3. Mindfulness, observing your experiences without getting overwhelmed by them. When you mess up, instead of, "I'm such a failure," try, "This is hard, and I'm learning." Everyone struggles with this stuff. Finding your why, the ultimate fuel. Here's what separates people who sustain positive changes from those who start strong but fizzle out: a clear sense of purpose. When you know why you're developing these skills, when you connect your daily choices to something meaningful, motivation becomes much more sustainable. Think about the Japanese concept of ikigai, which roughly translates to reason for being. It's found at the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, or what sustains you. Your journey toward emotional mastery doesn't have to check all these boxes, but connecting it to your deeper purpose makes all the difference. Maybe your why is being the calm, present parent your children deserve. Creating a peaceful, loving relationship with your partner. Becoming a leader others trust and respect. Contributing to your community from a place of strength rather than stress. Simply living with more inner peace and less regret. When challenges arise, and they will, this sense of purpose becomes your anchor. It reminds you that the temporary discomfort of growth is worth it for the life you're building. Building your personal foundation. So how do you actually build this foundation in your real, busy, complicated life? Step 1. Start with one thing. Don't try to overhaul your entire life at once. Pick one foundational area, sleep, nutrition, or movement, and focus on building one small, sustainable habit. Maybe it's going to bed 15 minutes earlier. Eating a healthy breakfast 3 days a week. Taking a 10-minute walk after lunch. Doing 5 minutes of stretching when you wake up. Step 2. Make it easier than you think you need to. Most people make changes too big and too fast. The goal isn't to impress anyone, it's to build a habit that sticks. Start smaller than feels necessary. If you want to exercise more, don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on your workout clothes. If you want to eat better, don't overhaul your entire diet. Add one healthy meal to your week. Step 3. Stack it onto something you already do. This is called habit stacking, and it's incredibly powerful. Take a habit you already do consistently and add your new behavior right after it. After I brush my teeth, I'll take 3 deep breaths. After I pour my morning coffee, I'll write down one thing I'm grateful for. After I sit down at my desk, I'll do 2 minutes of neck stretches. Step 4. Track your progress. There's something magical about simply paying attention to your behavior. You don't need complicated apps or elaborate systems. A simple checkmark on a calendar can be incredibly motivating. Celebrate small wins. Acknowledge effort, not just results. Progress isn't linear, and that's completely normal. The ripple effect of self-care. When you start taking care of your foundational needs, something beautiful happens. The changes ripple out into every area of your life. Your stress tolerance increases, things that used to set you off become manageable. Your relationships improve, you show up as your best self more consistently. Your decision-making sharpens, you make choices from clarity rather than depletion. Your confidence grows, you prove to yourself that you can create positive change. Your energy increases, good habits fuel more good habits. This isn't selfish, it's strategic. When you take care of yourself, you have more to offer everyone else in your life. The long game. Building self-discipline and taking care of your well-being isn't about perfection. It's about creating a sustainable foundation that supports the person you want to become. Some days will be easier than others. Some weeks you'll nail your routines, others you'll barely hang on. That's not failure, that's life. The goal is progress, not perfection. Every small choice in the right direction matters. Every time you choose rest over exhaustion, nutrition over junk food, movement over staying sedentary, you're investing in your capacity to handle whatever life throws at you. Chapter 6, The Compassionate Mirror, How to Handle Criticism Without Losing Yourself. Let me tell you about Sarah. She's a project manager who poured her heart into a presentation, late nights, careful research, slides she was genuinely proud of. When she presented to her senior team, her manager said, "This is good work, but slides 7 through 10 feel a bit rushed and unclear." That's it. 4 slides. Out of 30. But Sarah's internal response? I'm a complete failure. They think I'm incompetent. I'm never going to succeed here. All that work was worthless. Within seconds, a mild piece of feedback had triggered a spiral of shame, self-doubt, and that familiar burning sensation in her chest that makes you want to either fight back or disappear entirely. If this sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. Few things can derail our emotional equilibrium quite like criticism, whether it's harsh, gentle, fair, or completely off base. Today we're going to explore how to handle criticism and sensitivity without losing your center, building walls around your heart, or spending days replaying the interaction in your mind. Why criticism hits so hard. Spoiler, it's not your fault. First, let's get one thing straight. Your sensitivity to criticism isn't a character flaw. It's human nature. We're wired for connection and belonging, so when someone points out our flaws or mistakes, our brain interprets it as a potential threat to our social standing and safety. Research shows that criticism activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. When someone says something that stings, your brain literally processes it as if you've been physically hurt. No wonder it feels so awful. For some people, it hits even harder. About 20% of people are what researchers call highly sensitive persons, HSPs. If you're in this group, you process information more deeply, pick up on subtleties others might miss, and feel emotions more intensely. Criticism doesn't just sting, it can feel overwhelming. But even if you're not naturally highly sensitive, several factors can make criticism feel especially painful. Past wounds. If you grew up with constant criticism, harsh judgment, or emotional invalidation, your brain learned that criticism equals danger. Current feedback can unconsciously trigger those old wounds, making a simple comment from your boss feel like that childhood scolding from a parent. Low self-esteem. When your internal sense of worth is shaky, criticism confirms your worst fears about yourself. It hits where you're already vulnerable. Stress and fatigue. When you're running on empty, you have fewer emotional resources to process feedback objectively. Everything feels bigger and more threatening. The inner critic loop. If you're constantly criticizing yourself internally, external criticism feels like proof that even other people can see what's wrong with you. Understanding these factors isn't about making excuses, it's about having compassion for yourself and recognizing why this stuff is so hard. The first aid kit. Managing your initial reaction. When criticism hits and you feel that familiar surge of emotion, whether it's anger, shame, hurt, or defensive panic, you have a crucial window to choose your response. Here's your emotional first aid kit. Create space immediately. Remember that pause we've been talking about? This is when you need it most. Take deep breaths. As soon as you feel triggered, shift to slow, intentional breathing. The 4-7-8 technique, inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, is particularly effective because the long exhale activates your calming nervous system. By time, thank you for that feedback. Let me take a moment to think about it. This isn't avoiding, it's being strategic. You're giving your rational brain time to catch up with your emotional one. Step away if possible, excuse yourself to the bathroom, step outside for air, or simply move to a different physical space. Sometimes a change of scenery can interrupt the emotional spiral. Challenge your thinking traps. Your first thoughts after receiving criticism are often distorted by what psychologists call thinking traps. Learning to recognize these can save you from unnecessary suffering. All or nothing thinking. They said my presentation was unclear, so I'm a terrible presenter. Reality check. Criticism of one aspect doesn't negate everything else. Personalization. The project is behind schedule because I messed up. Maybe there were multiple factors, budget changes, or unrealistic timelines that had nothing to do with you. Mind reading. They looked annoyed, so they must think I'm incompetent. You actually have no idea what someone else is thinking, and their expression might have nothing to do with you. Catastrophizing. This criticism means I'll never get promoted. One piece of feedback doesn't determine your entire future. When you catch yourself in these traps, ask. Is this thought a fact or a feeling? What evidence do I have for and against this interpretation? How would I advise a friend who was thinking this way? What's a more balanced way to look at this situation? Name it to tame it. Here's a simple but powerful technique. Label what you're feeling with specific words. Instead of just feeling awful, get specific. I'm feeling ashamed. This triggered my fear of not being good enough. I'm experiencing anger and hurt. Research shows that simply naming emotions reduces their intensity. You're engaging your prefrontal cortex, your wise brain, instead of being overwhelmed by your amygdala, your emotional alarm system. Listening without losing yourself. Once you've managed your initial reaction, you can engage with the criticism more constructively. The key is learning to listen openly without automatically accepting everything as gospel truth. Listen for the message, not just the delivery. Sometimes valuable feedback comes wrapped in poor delivery. Your colleague might be stressed and speak more harshly than intended, but their core message might be helpful. Try to separate the content from the tone. Ask yourself, what's the actual feedback here? Is there something useful in this, even if I don't like how it was delivered? What specific changes are they suggesting? Ask clarifying questions. Instead of immediately defending yourself, get curious. Can you give me a specific example of what you mean? What would success look like to you in this area? What suggestions do you have for improvement? This serves multiple purposes. It shows you're open to feedback, it gives you more information to work with, and it often calms the other person down because they feel heard. Use I statements to express impact. If you need to share how the criticism affected you, use I statements rather than you accusations. Instead of, you're being way too harsh. Try, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the feedback and need a moment to process it. Instead of, you always criticize everything I do. Try, when I receive a lot of critical feedback at once, it's hard for me to hear the helpful parts. The gratitude strategy, yes, really. Here's something that might sound counterintuitive, thanking the person giving you criticism, even when it stings. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I appreciate you taking the time to give me this feedback. Thanks for being honest with me about this. This isn't about being fake or submissive. It's a strategic choice that disarms potential conflict, demonstrates emotional maturity, buys you time to process without pressure to respond immediately, often calms the other person down. You're not agreeing with everything they said, you're acknowledging their effort to communicate with you. Separating feedback from truth. Here's something crucial, not all criticism is accurate, helpful, or worth internalizing. Just because someone said something doesn't make it true. Just because they feel strongly about it doesn't mean you should automatically accept it. You get to be the gatekeeper of what feedback you take to heart. Questions to help you evaluate criticism. Is this person qualified to give feedback on this topic? Do they have enough information to make this judgment? Is this feedback about my actions/behavior, or about me as a person? Is there a pattern here, or is this an isolated opinion? What's their motivation in giving me this feedback? Does this feedback align with what I know about myself and my goals? Red flags of unhelpful criticism. It's about your character rather than your behavior. It comes with insults or personal attacks. It offers no suggestions for improvement. It's vague or impossible to act on. It contradicts feedback from multiple other sources. It comes from someone who consistently tears others down. Setting boundaries when criticism becomes toxic. Sometimes criticism crosses the line into verbal abuse, bullying, or consistent tearing down. In these situations, you need to protect yourself. Healthy responses to toxic criticism. I'm open to feedback about my work, but I won't accept personal attacks. Let's schedule a time to discuss this when we can both be more constructive. I understand your concerns, but the way you're expressing them isn't helpful. I need to end this conversation for now. Physical boundaries. Limit your exposure to consistently critical people when possible. Don't engage when someone is being abusive. Remove yourself from situations that regularly involve destructive criticism. Remember, setting boundaries isn't about being defensive or closed to feedback. It's about protecting your emotional well-being so you can actually hear and use constructive input. Turning criticism into growth. When criticism is fair and constructive, even if it doesn't feel good, it can become a powerful tool for growth. Here's how to mine it for gold. Look for patterns. If multiple people are giving you similar feedback, pay attention. One person might be having a bad day, but if 3 different people mention the same issue, there's probably something worth exploring. Focus on specific actions. The most helpful criticism focuses on specific behaviors you can change, rather than vague personality judgments. Helpful. When you interrupt during meetings, it makes it hard for others to share their ideas. Not helpful. You're too aggressive. Create an action plan. Once you've identified valid feedback, turn it into a concrete plan. What specific changes will you make? How will you practice these changes? Who can help hold you accountable? How will you measure progress? Follow up. If the criticism came from someone you work with regularly, consider following up. I've been working on interrupting less in meetings. Have you noticed any improvement? This shows maturity, commitment to growth, and often strengthens the relationship. The sensitivity advantage. Before we wrap up, let's flip the script on sensitivity. In a world that often treats sensitivity like a weakness, research shows it's actually a superpower when managed well. Highly sensitive people pick up on subtleties others miss. Have deep empathy and understanding. Process information thoroughly. Are often highly creative and innovative. Form deep, meaningful relationships. Have strong moral compasses. The key isn't to become less sensitive, it's to manage your sensitivity so it serves you rather than overwhelming you. Strategies for sensitive people. Build in recovery time after difficult interactions. Practice extra self-compassion. Limit exposure to harsh media or toxic people. Find supportive communities who appreciate depth and sensitivity. Use your sensitivity as information about your environment and relationships. Building your criticism resilience. Like any skill, handling criticism gets easier with practice. Here are ways to build your resilience. Practice self-compassion daily. Start talking to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend. When you make mistakes or face setbacks, offer yourself the same kindness you'd give someone you care about. Seek out constructive feedback. This might sound crazy, but regularly asking for feedback from people you trust makes criticism less shocking when it comes unexpectedly. You get used to hearing about your growth areas without it being a crisis. Celebrate your growth. Keep a record of improvements you've made based on feedback. This reminds you that criticism can lead to positive changes and builds confidence in your ability to grow. Develop a support network. Surround yourself with people who see your worth and can offer perspective when criticism hits hard. Sometimes you need someone else to remind you of your strengths. The Compassionate Mirror. The title of this chapter, The Compassionate Mirror, refers to this dual practice, holding up a mirror of compassion both to yourself and to the criticism you receive. For yourself, seeing your reactions, triggers, and growth areas with kindness rather than judgment. For the criticism, looking for the kernel of truth or good intention, even when the delivery isn't perfect. This doesn't mean accepting everything or becoming a doormat. It means approaching both your own sensitivity and others' feedback with curiosity and compassion rather than defensiveness and shame. Chapter 7, The Art of Connection, How to Fight Without Losing Each Other. You know that moment in an argument when you can feel everything shifting? One minute you're having a discussion about the dishes in the sink, and the next minute someone's bringing up that thing that happened 3 months ago, voices are getting louder, and you're both more focused on being right than being understood. We've all been there. In those heated moments, it's like your relationship gets hijacked by your ego, your old wounds, and your desperate need to prove your point. Before you know it, you're not talking to your partner, parent, or friend anymore, you're fighting with them. But what if I told you that conflicts don't have to damage your relationships? What if the very moments that feel most threatening to your connection could actually become opportunities to understand each other more deeply? Welcome to the art of turning conflicts into connections. The invisible wall that kills connection. Let's start with the biggest relationship killer, the ego's invisible wall. Picture this, you're having a disagreement with someone you care about. Maybe it's your partner about money, your teenager about curfew, or your colleague about a project. What's your immediate internal response? If you're honest, it's probably something like, I need to prove I'm right, they need to understand my point, or how dare they question me about this. That response. That's your ego building what I call an invisible wall between you and the other person. You can't see it, but it's incredibly strong, constructed from defensiveness, stubbornness, and the desperate need to protect your sense of being right. Research consistently shows that the ego is one of the primary drivers of conflict. When your ego is running the show, you're not seeking understanding, you're seeking victory. You're not collaborating, you're competing. And most importantly, you're not really listening, you're just waiting for your turn to prove your point. Signs your ego has built the wall. You're planning your rebuttal while they're still talking. You feel indignant or superior. You're bringing up past issues to prove your point. You can't acknowledge anything valid in what they're saying. The conversation feels like a battle you must win. When both people have their walls up, you get two parallel monologues instead of one real conversation. And that's where relationships slowly die, not in dramatic explosions, but in the gradual erosion of genuine connection. The antidote: mindful listening. The most powerful tool for dissolving those invisible walls. Mindful listening. This isn't just hearing the words someone is saying. It's giving them your complete, undivided attention with genuine curiosity about their experience. It's listening to understand, not to reply. Think about the last time someone really, truly listened to you. Not just waited for you to finish talking so they could make their point, but actually absorbed what you were saying, reflected it back, maybe asked thoughtful questions. How did that feel? Incredible, right? Like you mattered. Like you were seen and understood. That's the gift of mindful listening, and its relationship magic. How to listen mindfully. Give full presence, put down your phone. Turn your body toward them. Make eye contact. Show with your whole being that right now, they are your priority. Listen for emotions, not just facts. Pay attention to not just what they're saying, but how they're feeling. Are they frustrated? Scared? Disappointed? Often, the emotion is more important than the specific details. Reflect what you hear, so it sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed by all the changes at work, and you need more support at home right now. Is that right? This shows you're really listening and gives them a chance to correct or clarify. Ask open-ended questions. Instead of, "Are you mad about the dishes?" try, "Help me understand what's really bothering you about this situation." Stay curious, approach their perspective with genuine interest, even if you disagree. "That's interesting. Tell me more about how you see it." This kind of listening starves the ego monster, as one researcher beautifully put it. When you're fully focused on understanding them, there's no room for your ego to build walls or plan counterattacks. The power of Socratic questioning. Want to take your conversations to an even deeper level? Try what philosophers call the Socratic method, but don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Instead of stating your position and trying to convince the other person you're right, you ask questions that help both of you explore the issue together. Traditional approach: "You're wrong about this. Here's why." Socratic approach: "That's an interesting perspective. What experiences led you to that conclusion?" The magic happens when both people become curious about the truth rather than defensive about their positions. You become partners in understanding rather than opponents in a debate. Socratic questions to try. What do you think might happen if we tried it your way? Help me understand what's most important to you about this. What would need to be true for both of us to feel good about this? What are we both trying to accomplish here? This approach transforms the conversation from "me versus you" to "us versus the problem." Your conflict resolution toolkit. When emotions are running high and you feel that familiar urge to react defensively, here are your go-to strategies. Strategy number 1, use I statements. This is communication 101, but it works because it focuses on your experience rather than attacking the other person's character. Instead of, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted, and it makes it hard for me to share what I'm thinking." Instead of, "You're being totally unreasonable," try, "I'm having trouble understanding your perspective. Can you help me see where you're coming from?" I statements keep the focus on your experience and feelings rather than making accusations that put the other person on the defensive. Strategy number 2, the magic code word. Here's a game changer: establish a code word with people you're close to that means, "I'm getting triggered and need a pause." Maybe it's time out, pause, or even something silly like pineapple. The key is agreeing beforehand that when someone uses the code word, you both step away for a few minutes to calm down. This isn't about avoiding difficult conversations, it's about having them when you're both in a state to actually hear each other. The rules. Either person can call a timeout, no questions asked. Take at least 10 to 15 minutes apart to breathe and center yourself. Come back together when you're both ready to try again. No using the timeout to avoid important conversations long term. Strategy number 3, assume positive intent. This one's tough but incredibly powerful. When someone says or does something that hurts or annoys you, try assuming they didn't mean to cause harm. Instead of, "They're deliberately trying to hurt me." Try, "They're probably stressed and didn't realize how that came across." This doesn't mean being naive or accepting bad behavior. It means giving people the benefit of the doubt when possible, which creates space for understanding rather than defensiveness. Strategy number 4, the think filter. Before you speak in a heated moment, run your words through this filter. True, is what I'm about to say factual and accurate? Helpful, will this move us toward understanding and resolution? Inspiring, will this bring hope and positivity to the situation? Necessary, does this really need to be said right now? Kind, am I speaking with compassion and respect? This pause to filter your words can prevent so much damage and keep conversations constructive. Reframing conflict as opportunity. Here's a radical idea: what if conflicts aren't relationship killers but relationship builders? Think about it. When two people care enough about each other and the relationship to engage in difficult conversations, that's actually a sign of commitment. They're willing to work through problems instead of just walking away. Conflict as growth opportunity. Deeper understanding, arguments force you to articulate what you really need and value, and to understand what matters to the other person. Stronger bonds. When you successfully navigate conflict together, you prove to each other that your relationship can handle challenges. Creative solutions. Often, the best solutions emerge from the friction of different perspectives. Neither person could have come up with the final answer alone. Increased intimacy. Sharing your real feelings, even difficult ones, creates deeper connection than just skimming along the surface. The key is approaching conflict as us versus the problem rather than me versus you. The danger of avoidance. Before we go further, let's address the elephant in the room: conflict avoidance. Research shows that 70% of employees avoid difficult conversations at work, and 53% handle toxic situations by simply ignoring them. This isn't just a workplace problem, it happens in families and relationships too. Here's why avoidance is so tempting. Conflict feels uncomfortable. We worry about making things worse. We don't know how to navigate difficult conversations. We hope problems will just resolve themselves. But here's what actually happens when we avoid conflict. Small problems become big problems. Resentment builds up over time. Important issues never get resolved. Relationships become superficial or distant. Trust erodes because people don't feel heard. Healthy conflict is like cleaning house. It's not fun, but it prevents bigger problems down the road. Special situations, when emotions run extra high. Sometimes conflicts involve topics or timing that make emotions run especially high. Here's how to handle these. When someone is really upset. If the other person is in emotional overwhelm, don't try to logic them out of their feelings. Acknowledge their emotions first. I can see this is really important to you. Give them space to express themselves fully before you respond. Stay calm and centered, which helps them regulate too. When you're really upset. If you're the one who's emotionally flooded, use that code word to take a break. Do some physical movement to process the stress hormones. Practice the breathing techniques we've learned. Come back when you can speak from your wise mind, not just your hurt. When it's a recurring issue. For conflicts that keep coming up. Look for the deeper need or fear underneath the surface issue. Ask, what are we really fighting about here? Consider if this is about different values, communication styles, or unmet needs. Sometimes you need outside help from a counselor or mediator. The 24-hour rule for relationships. Remember that 24-hour rule we talked about for emails? It's even more powerful in close relationships. When someone you care about says or does something that really triggers you, resist the urge to respond immediately. Instead, 1. Acknowledge the trigger. I'm feeling really hurt/angry/frustrated right now. 2. Take time to process. I need some time to think about this before we talk. 3. Use the time wisely. Journal, talk to a friend, do some self-reflection. 4. Come back from a centered place. Address the issue when you can do so constructively. This prevents so many fights from spiraling and helps you respond from love rather than wounds. Building a culture of connection. In your closest relationships, you can actually create a culture where conflicts become opportunities for connection. Regular check-ins. Schedule weekly or monthly conversations specifically for addressing any issues or concerns before they become big problems. Appreciation practice. Make it a habit to regularly express gratitude and appreciation for each other. This builds a positive foundation that can weather occasional storms. Conflict ground rules. Agree on guidelines for how you'll handle disagreements. No name calling, no bringing up the past, take breaks when needed, etc. Growth mindset. Approach relationship challenges as opportunities to learn and grow together rather than evidence that something's wrong. When to get help. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, conflicts become too intense or frequent to handle alone. It's a sign of wisdom, not failure, to seek help when conversations regularly escalate to shouting or personal attacks. You find yourselves having the same fight over and over with no resolution. Trust has been seriously damaged. You're avoiding each other or walking on eggshells. The relationship feels more draining than nourishing most of the time. A good counselor or mediator can help you break unhealthy patterns and learn better ways to communicate and resolve conflicts. The ripple effect of connection. When you master the art of turning conflicts into connections, the impact goes far beyond your immediate relationships. Your children watch you handle disagreements with respect and learn that conflict doesn't have to be scary or destructive. Your friends and family experience you as someone who's safe to be real with, which deepens all your relationships. Your colleagues see you as someone who can navigate challenges without drama, making you a valued team member. You become someone people turn to when they're struggling because they know you'll listen without judgment and help them think through problems. You literally become a force for connection in a world that often feels divided. Chapter 8, Beyond the Storm, How to Become Unshakable, Without Becoming Unfeeling. Let me tell you about Maria. A few years ago, she lost her job unexpectedly, her father was diagnosed with a serious illness, and her marriage hit a really rough patch, all within about 6 months. The old Maria would have completely fallen apart. She would have spent weeks replaying every conversation with her boss, spiraling into worst-case scenarios about her dad's health, and either completely shutting down or exploding at her husband over small things. But the Maria who faced this perfect storm had been practicing the skills we've been exploring together. She still felt scared, sad, and overwhelmed. She still had moments of doubt and frustration. But instead of being crushed by these challenges, she found ways to navigate them with grace, find support when she needed it, and even discover strengths she didn't know she had. That's what resilience looks like, not the absence of struggle, but the ability to move through difficulty with wisdom and emerge stronger on the other side. Resilience, your ordinary magic. Here's something that might surprise you. resilience isn't some rare superpower that only special people possess. Researchers actually call it ordinary magic, a natural human capacity that can be developed by anyone willing to practice. You don't have to be born tough or have perfect genetics. You don't need to avoid all pain or pretend everything's fine when it's not. Real resilience is about building the inner resources that help you bend without breaking when life gets heavy. Think of it like building muscle. You don't start at the gym lifting the heaviest weights, you begin where you are and gradually build strength through consistent practice. Emotional resilience works the same way. Every time you choose to pause instead of react, every time you practice mindfulness or patience, every time you navigate a conflict constructively, you're building your resilience muscle. And just like physical fitness, this isn't something you achieve once and then you're done. It's an ongoing practice that gets stronger and more reliable the more you use it. The 7 C's, your resilience blueprint. One of the most helpful frameworks for understanding resilience comes from Dr. Kenneth Ginsburg, who identified 7 core components that work together to build inner strength. Think of these as your resilience blueprint. 1. Competence, knowing you can handle this. Competence is about recognizing that you have skills and the ability to handle challenging situations effectively. It's built every time you successfully navigate a problem, learn a new skill, or accomplish something meaningful. In everyday life, when you use those I statements to resolve a conflict with your partner, master a new skill at work, or even just fix something that's broken around the house, you're building competence. Each success, no matter how small, adds to your internal library of I can figure this out. 2. Confidence, believing in your abilities. Confidence flows naturally from competence. When you've proven to yourself repeatedly that you can handle difficult situations, you start believing in your capacity to handle whatever comes next. The inner voice shift, instead of, I can't deal with this, you start thinking, this is challenging, but I've handled tough things before. I'll figure out a way through this too. 3. Connection, never facing storms alone. Strong, supportive relationships are one of the most powerful buffers against stress and adversity. When you have people in your corner, people who truly see you and care about your well-being, you can weather much bigger storms than you could alone. Building connection, this means investing in relationships before you need them. Practice those listening skills we learned. Show up for others when they're struggling. Be vulnerable about your own challenges. Create a network of mutual support. 4. Character, your moral compass. Character is about acting in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. When you live with integrity, you build an unshakable foundation of self-respect that no external circumstances can take away. In practice, this might mean being honest about a mistake at work, keeping your commitments even when you don't feel like it, or treating people with kindness even when they haven't earned it. Your character becomes your anchor when everything else feels uncertain. 5. Contribution, finding purpose in service. There's something magic about focusing on how you can help others or contribute to something larger than yourself. It shifts your attention from your own problems to meaningful action, and it reminds you that you have value and purpose. Ways to contribute: volunteer for a cause you care about, mentor someone who's struggling with something you've overcome, or simply look for small ways to make others' days better. When you're contributing, you're less likely to get stuck in your own worries. 6. Coping, your emotional toolkit. This is about having healthy strategies to manage stress and difficult emotions. It's all the skills we've been building throughout this book: mindfulness, breathing techniques, the pause, patience, and healthy ways to process challenging feelings. Your coping toolkit: deep breathing exercises, physical movement, time in nature, journaling, talking to trusted friends, creative expression, or whatever helps you process emotions without stuffing them down or acting them out destructively. 7. Control, focusing on what you can influence. This is perhaps the most crucial element. Resilient people understand the difference between what they can control, their thoughts, actions, and responses, and what they can't control, other people's behavior, external circumstances, or outcomes. The control shift. Instead of wasting energy fighting reality or trying to control other people, you focus your efforts where you actually have power, your own choices and responses. Building resilience before you need it. Here's one of the most important insights about resilience: the time to build it is before the storm hits, not during it. Think about it, you wouldn't wait until your house is on fire to install smoke detectors or learn how to use a fire extinguisher. The same principle applies to emotional resilience. The practices we've explored throughout this book aren't just for managing big crises, they're daily investments in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. Small daily practices that build big resilience. Morning moments of mindfulness. Even 5 minutes of conscious breathing or gratitude practice sets a centered tone for your day. Regular movement. Whether it's walking, yoga, dancing, or any form of exercise, physical activity processes stress hormones and builds both physical and emotional strength. Connection rituals, regular check-ins with friends and family, expressing appreciation, or simply being fully present with people you care about. Purpose practices, volunteering, mentoring, or just looking for ways to be helpful in your daily interactions. Reflection habits, journaling, meditation, or just taking time to process your experiences and emotions consciously. These aren't huge, life-changing practices. They're small, consistent actions that compound over time to create extraordinary resilience. The art of reframing, finding silver linings without toxic positivity. One of the most powerful resilience skills is the ability to consciously choose how you interpret difficult situations. This isn't about pretending everything's fine or forcing fake positivity. It's about looking for lessons, growth opportunities, or small gifts even in the midst of genuine hardship. The difference between reframing and toxic positivity. Toxic positivity, everything happens for a reason. Just think positive. Healthy reframing, this is really difficult, and I can also look for what I might learn from it. Toxic positivity, you should be grateful. Others have it worse. Healthy reframing, I can acknowledge this pain and also notice the support I'm receiving. Real-world reframing examples. A job loss becomes an opportunity to reassess what you really want in your career. A relationship ending becomes a chance to learn about your needs and patterns. A health scare becomes motivation to prioritize self-care and appreciate your body. A conflict with a friend becomes an opportunity to practice better communication skills. The key is feeling your genuine emotions first, then looking for meaning, learning, or unexpected gifts. You're not bypassing the pain, you're finding purpose in it. Your support network, building relationships that sustain you. Research consistently shows that strong social connections are one of the most powerful predictors of resilience. But this isn't just about having a lot of friends or being popular. It's about cultivating relationships where you can be authentic, vulnerable, and genuinely supported. The cost of isolation. Statistics reveal that workplace conflicts alone cost the global economy $359 billion annually in lost productivity. But think about the personal cost too, the exhaustion, the loneliness, the sense that you're facing everything alone. Building authentic connection. Quality over quantity, better to have a few deep, genuine relationships than many superficial ones. Mutual support. The strongest relationships involve both giving and receiving help, care, and understanding. Emotional safety. Surround yourself with people who accept your imperfections and support your growth. Diverse perspectives. Include people who challenge you gently and help you see situations from different angles. Shared values. Connect with people who share your core values, even if you have different opinions on specific issues. Remember, building these relationships takes time and requires you to be the kind of friend or family member you'd want to have. Practice those listening skills, show up when people need you, and be willing to be vulnerable about your own struggles. Nature, your stress relief prescription. Here's a simple but powerful resilience builder that's available to almost everyone: time in nature. Whether it's a walk in a local park, sitting by a lake, hiking in the mountains, or even just tending to a small garden, spending time in natural environments has profound effects on your mental and emotional well-being. What nature does for your resilience: reduces cortisol, stress hormone, levels. Improves mood and emotional regulation. Enhances creativity and problem-solving abilities. Provides perspective on your problems. Offers a sense of connection to something larger than yourself. Easy ways to get your nature dose. Take walking meetings outside instead of sitting in conference rooms. Eat lunch in a park instead of at your desk. Keep plants in your living space. Take weekend hikes or bike rides. Garden, even if it's just herbs on a windowsill. Watch sunrises or sunsets when possible. Think of nature as a natural reset button for your nervous system. It reminds you that you're part of something bigger and helps put your daily stresses in perspective. The digital detox, protecting your mental space. We need to talk about something that's actively undermining resilience for millions of people: our relationship with technology and social media. Research has identified something alarming: modern digital culture actively collapses the space between stimulus and response. Social media platforms are designed to trigger immediate reactions: that angry comment, that defensive response, that impulsive share. We're being trained to react quickly rather than respond thoughtfully. This constant state of reactivity erodes our collective ability to pause, to consider different perspectives, and to find common ground. It's literally rewiring our brains for impatience and reactivity instead of wisdom and resilience. Signs you need a digital detox. You feel anxious or agitated without your phone. You check social media compulsively, even when you don't enjoy it. Online interactions leave you feeling drained or angry. You compare your life to others' highlight reels. You have trouble focusing on one task without checking devices. You feel overwhelmed by the constant stream of news and information. Creating digital boundaries. Set specific times for checking email and social media. Use airplane mode during meals or important conversations. Create phone-free zones in your home, bedroom, dining room. Take regular breaks from news and social media. Be intentional about what accounts you follow. Do they inspire or drain you? Practice the pause before responding to anything online. Your resilience depends on protecting that precious space between stimulus and response. Don't let technology collapse it. When resilience isn't enough, knowing when to seek help. Building resilience is incredibly powerful, but it's not a cure-all. Sometimes life throws challenges that require professional support, and recognizing when you need help is actually a sign of wisdom and strength, not weakness. Consider seeking professional help when you're consistently overwhelmed despite using your coping strategies. You're having thoughts of harming yourself or others. Your sleep, appetite, or daily functioning is seriously disrupted. Relationships are suffering despite your best efforts. You're using substances to cope with emotions. You feel hopeless or stuck despite trying multiple approaches. Past traumas are interfering with your present life. Types of professional support. Therapists who specialize in your specific challenges. Support groups with others facing similar issues. Coaches who help with specific goals and skill building. Medical professionals if there are physical components to consider. Remember, getting help when you need it is part of resilience, not a failure of resilience. Bouncing forward, not just back. Traditional thinking about resilience focused on bouncing back, returning to where you were before the crisis hit. But modern research reveals something much more exciting: the possibility of bouncing forward. This means using challenges as catalysts for growth, emerging from difficulties not just intact, but actually stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. What bouncing forward looks like. Using a job loss to find work that's more aligned with your values. Letting a health scare motivate healthier lifestyle choices. Allowing relationship challenges to develop better communication skills. Using a financial setback to build better money management habits. Finding meaning and purpose through helping others facing similar struggles. This doesn't mean being grateful for trauma or pretending difficulty is good. It means recognizing that humans have an incredible capacity to transform pain into wisdom, struggle into strength, and challenges into growth opportunities. Your resilience practice. Building lasting resilience isn't about waiting for the next crisis to test yourself. It's about daily practices that slowly but surely build your capacity to handle whatever comes your way. Start with one area from the 7 C's that resonates most. Build competence by learning a new skill or tackling a challenging project. Strengthen confidence by acknowledging your past successes and capabilities. Deepen connections by reaching out to someone you care about. Live your character by making choices aligned with your values. Find contribution through volunteering or helping others. Expand your coping toolkit with new stress management strategies. Focus your control on what you can actually influence. Make it sustainable. Start smaller than you think you need to. Choose practices you actually enjoy. Build on existing habits rather than trying to create entirely new routines. Be patient with yourself as these skills develop. Celebrate small wins along the way. The ripple effect of resilience. When you build genuine resilience, it doesn't just change your own life, it impacts everyone around you. Your children watch you handle stress with grace and learn that challenges can be faced with courage and wisdom. Your partner or family experiences you as a source of stability and strength, which makes them feel safer and more supported. Your friends see you as someone they can count on during their own difficult times. Your colleagues experience you as someone who stays centered under pressure and can be trusted with important challenges. You become a person others turn to not because your life is perfect, but because you've learned to navigate imperfection with wisdom and grace. Chapter 9, Your Roadmap Forward, Making This Stick in Real Life. Here we are, near the end of our journey together, and I want to have a really honest conversation with you. You've learned incredible things. You understand why your brain reacts the way it does. You know about the power of the pause, the magic of mindfulness, how patience becomes a superpower. You've discovered how to handle criticism without losing yourself, turn conflicts into connections, and build unshakable resilience. But if you're anything like the thousands of people I've worked with over the years, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed right now. Maybe you're thinking, this all sounds amazing, but how do I actually do all of this in my real life? How do I remember these techniques when my teenager is having a meltdown, my boss is being unreasonable, and I'm already running on 4 hours of sleep? That's exactly what this chapter is about. Not just knowing what to do, but actually doing it. Not just understanding these concepts, but living them. Not just having great techniques, but building a life where thoughtful responding becomes as natural as breathing. The truth about change, and why most people give up. Let me start with something that might surprise you. Most lasting change happens through tiny, seemingly insignificant actions repeated consistently over time. The reason most people struggle with implementing new skills isn't because they lack willpower or because the techniques don't work. It's because they try to change everything at once, expect instant perfection, and get discouraged when they inevitably stumble. Think about it this way, research shows that 95% of everything we feel, think, do, and achieve comes from learned habits. That means most of your life is currently running on autopilot, patterns you've developed over years or even decades. You're not going to rewire all of that overnight, and that's completely okay. In fact, it's better than okay, it's the secret to sustainable change. The power of ridiculously small beginnings. Remember Admiral McRaven's advice about making your bed every morning? It seems almost silly, right? How could something so simple make a real difference? But here's what happens. that one small act of discipline creates momentum. It gives you your first win of the day. It proves to yourself that you can take control of your environment and follow through on commitments. And most importantly, it starts to shift your identity from someone who's reactive and scattered to someone who's intentional and disciplined. This is the compound effect in action. Small, consistent behaviors stack up to create radical changes over time, but only if you start small enough to be consistent. Your new mantra: consistency beats intensity every single time. So instead of trying to meditate for an hour, transform all your relationships, and master perfect emotional regulation by next Tuesday. What if you just committed to taking 3 conscious breaths when you wake up each morning? Just 3 breaths. That's it. Sounds almost too easy, right? Good. That's exactly the point. The one thing rule. I want you to choose just one practice from everything we've covered and commit to it for the next 30 days. Not 3 practices, not 5, just one. Here are some options. The pause practice: every time you feel triggered, angry, frustrated, hurt, defensive, take 3 deep breaths before responding. That's it. The mindful moment: set a phone reminder for the same time each day. When it goes off, spend 60 seconds just noticing your breath, your body, or your surroundings without judgment. The patience practice: choose one daily frustration, traffic, waiting in line, slow technology, and use it as your patience training ground. Instead of getting agitated, practice acceptance and breathing. The gratitude shift: before you get out of bed each morning, think of one specific thing you're genuinely grateful for. Feel the appreciation in your body, not just in your head. The listen first rule: in one relationship, with your partner, child, or colleague, commit to really listening before speaking. Focus completely on understanding their perspective. Pick the one that resonates most strongly with you or addresses your biggest challenge area. Write it down. Tell someone about it. Make it so simple and specific that it would be harder to not do it than to do it. Building your personal pause toolkit. While you're mastering that one core practice, you'll want to have some go-to techniques ready for moments when your emotions run high and you need immediate support. This is your personal calm down kit. Think of it like having a first aid kit for your emotional well-being. You hope you won't need it, but when you do, you're incredibly grateful it's there. Your physical reset tools. Deep breathing techniques: the 4-7-8 method, box breathing, or simply exhaling longer than you inhale. These work because they directly calm your nervous system. Movement: even 30 seconds of stretching, shaking out your hands, or walking can help discharge stress energy. Cold water: splash it on your face or drink some slowly. This activates your body's dive response, which naturally calms you down. Grounding objects: a smooth stone in your pocket, a special ring, or even just pressing your feet firmly into the ground. Physical sensations can anchor you in the present moment. Your mental reset tools. The stop method: stop what you're doing, take a breath, observe what's happening, thoughts, feelings, body sensations, then proceed with awareness. Counting to 10 to 20, backwards from 100, whatever helps redirect your racing mind to something neutral. The 5-4-3-2-1 technique: name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This grounds you in the present moment. Calming phrases: this too shall pass, I am safe right now, I can handle this, or whatever words bring you peace. Your behavioral reset tools. The strategic pause: I need a moment to think about this, or let me get back to you on that. Give yourself permission to not respond immediately. Physical removal: step outside, go to another room, or excuse yourself to the bathroom. Sometimes you need to literally change your environment. The 24-hour rule: for important communications, wait a day before responding. What feels urgent in the moment often looks different with time. Experiment with different techniques and pay attention to what works best for you. Some people respond better to physical techniques, others to mental strategies. Build your personal toolkit based on what actually helps you feel more centered. The art of self-compassion, your secret weapon. Here's something crucial that most self-help approaches get wrong: they assume that being hard on yourself motivates change. But research consistently shows the opposite is true. Self-criticism actually undermines motivation, increases stress, and makes you more likely to give up when you face setbacks. Self-compassion, on the other hand, helps you bounce back from mistakes, maintain motivation over time, and create sustainable change. What self-compassion looks like in practice. When you react instead of respond, that was human. I'm still learning these skills, and I can try again next time. When you forget to practice, everyone forgets sometimes. This is a normal part of building new habits. I'll just start again tomorrow. When progress feels slow, change takes time, and I'm moving in the right direction. Every small step matters. When you feel overwhelmed, this is hard right now, and that's okay. I don't have to be perfect at this. The 3 components of self-compassion. Self-kindness, talk to yourself like you would a good friend who's struggling. Common humanity, remember that everyone struggles with these things. You're not uniquely flawed or broken. Mindfulness, notice your thoughts and feelings without getting completely swept away by them. This isn't about lowering your standards or making excuses. It's about creating the emotional safety that allows you to keep growing and improving over time. Creating your environment for success. One of the smartest things you can do is design your environment to support your new habits rather than sabotage them. Digital boundaries, put your phone in another room during meals or important conversations. Use airplane mode during your morning routine. Unfollow social media accounts that consistently trigger reactive emotions. Physical reminders, leave sticky notes with breathing reminders on your bathroom mirror. Set gentle phone alarms with calming messages. Keep a gratitude journal on your bedside table. Relationship agreements, talk to close family members or friends about your goals. Ask them to gently remind you to pause when they notice you getting reactive. Create code words for when emotions run high. Stress reduction, remove unnecessary stressors where possible. This might mean meal prepping on Sundays, laying out clothes the night before, or having difficult conversations when you're well-rested rather than stressed. Energy management, pay attention to when you have the most emotional resilience, often mornings for many people, and schedule challenging tasks or important conversations during those times. You're essentially becoming an environmental designer for your own emotional well-being. Learning from your reactions, the growth mindset. Here's something that might surprise you: your failures are actually incredibly valuable data about your triggers, patterns, and areas for growth. Instead of beating yourself up when you react instead of respond, get curious. Every emotional reaction is a teacher if you're willing to listen. Questions to ask yourself after a reactive episode. What triggered this? Was it something specific someone said, a particular situation, or were you already stressed from something else? What was I feeling underneath the reaction? Anger often masks hurt, fear, or feeling unvalued. What was the core emotion? What physical sensations did I notice? Your body often gives you early warning signs: tight jaw, tense shoulders, shallow breathing. What thoughts were running through my mind? Were you catastrophizing, mind reading, or falling into other thinking traps? What would I do differently next time? Not to judge your reaction, but to plan a different response for similar situations. What can I learn about myself from this? What does this reaction tell you about your values, needs, or growth edges? Keep a simple journal or voice memo on your phone. The act of reflecting helps integrate the lessons and build self-awareness over time. When to seek professional support. Sometimes, despite your best efforts and consistent practice, you might find that you need additional support. This isn't a sign of failure, it's a sign of wisdom. Consider professional help when your reactions are consistently intense or disproportionate to the situation. You're struggling with anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges. Past trauma is interfering with your ability to respond thoughtfully in the present. Relationship conflicts are escalating despite your best efforts. You're using substances to cope with difficult emotions. You feel stuck despite practicing these techniques consistently. Types of support that can help. Therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, and trauma-informed therapies can provide additional tools and healing. Support groups, connecting with others who are working on similar challenges can provide encouragement and accountability. Coaching, a good coach can help you implement these skills more effectively and stay accountable to your goals. Medical support, sometimes hormonal imbalances, sleep disorders, or other physical issues affect emotional regulation. Getting help when you need it is part of taking care of yourself, not a failure to do so. The ripple effect, how you change the world. As you consistently practice responding instead of reacting, something beautiful starts to happen. The changes don't just stay within you, they ripple out to touch everyone in your life. Your children watch you handle frustration with a pause and deep breath, and they start doing the same when they're upset. Your partner experiences you as truly present and emotionally safe, which deepens intimacy and trust. Your colleagues see you as someone who stays calm under pressure and can navigate challenges without creating drama. Your friends feel comfortable being vulnerable with you because they know you won't react with judgment or advice they didn't ask for. You literally become a force for calm in a reactive world. Not because you're perfect or never struggle, but because you've learned to struggle well. Your 30-day challenge. Here's what I want you to do. Commit to practicing your chosen technique for 30 days. Not perfectly, consistently. Week 1, focus just on remembering to do your practice. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Week 2, start noticing the immediate effects. How do you feel right after practicing? What do you notice about your day? Week 3, pay attention to longer-term changes. Are you sleeping better? Feeling less reactive? Having better conversations? Week 4, begin thinking about how you want to expand your practice. What other techniques interest you? Track your progress simply, a check mark on a calendar is enough. Celebrate small wins. Notice improvements, however subtle. Building on success. After 30 days, you'll have built some momentum and started to experience the benefits firsthand. This is when you can thoughtfully add another practice, but not before. Maybe you started with the pause practice and now want to add a gratitude routine. Or you began with mindful breathing and now want to work on better listening skills. The key is building slowly and sustainably rather than trying to transform everything at once. The long view. Remember, this isn't about achieving some perfect state where you never feel triggered or never react emotionally. You're human, and humans have emotions, sometimes big, messy, inconvenient ones. This is about gradually shifting your default responses. It's about having more moments of conscious choice and fewer moments of regretful reaction. It's about building the inner resources to handle whatever life throws at you with greater wisdom and less suffering. Some days will be easier than others. Some weeks you'll feel like you're making great progress, others you'll feel like you're starting over. That's not just normal, it's inevitable. What matters is that you keep coming back to the practice. Every time you choose the pause over the reaction, every time you listen before speaking, every time you respond from your values instead of your wounds, you're building a life you can be proud of. Your journey continues. We've reached the end of our formal time together, but your journey is just beginning. You now have a toolkit of practical, science-backed techniques for transforming reactive moments into opportunities for conscious choice. More importantly, you understand that this isn't about perfection, it's about practice. It's not about never feeling upset, it's about relating to your emotions with wisdom rather than being completely at their mercy. The pause that changes everything isn't a technique you master once and then you're done. It's a way of living that deepens and strengthens over time, creating more peace, better relationships, and greater alignment between your actions and your deepest values. You have everything you need to begin. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember, every conscious pause is a victory worth celebrating. Chapter 10, The Freedom of Choice, Your Life Transformed. Take a deep breath with me for a moment. As we reach the end of our journey together, I want you to notice something. Right now, in this very moment, you have a choice. You can rush through these final words, already thinking about what's next on your to-do list. Or you can be fully present here, letting these ideas settle into your heart and mind, feeling the possibility of the transformation that awaits you. That choice, between mindless rushing and mindful presence, that's the pause that changes everything in microcosm. How far you've come. Think back to when we first met in the introduction. Maybe you picked up this book because you were tired of saying things you regretted, tired of feeling controlled by your emotions, tired of conflicts that seemed to spiral out of nowhere. Maybe you were exhausted from feeling like you were constantly reacting to life instead of consciously living it. Look at everything you now understand. You know why your brain reacts the way it does, that it's not a character flaw but an ancient survival system trying to protect you. You've discovered the sweet spot between stimulus and response, that precious pause where your true power lives. You've learned that mindfulness isn't about becoming emotionally numb but about developing a wiser relationship with your thoughts and feelings. You understand that patience isn't passive suffering but an active superpower that gives you a strategic advantage in every situation. You know how to fuel your inner strength through self-discipline and well-being practices that support your best self. You've mastered the art of handling criticism without losing yourself or building walls around your heart. You can transform conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection instead of relationship damage. And you've built the kind of lasting resilience that helps you not just survive life's storms but actually grow stronger because of them. This isn't just intellectual knowledge, these are life-changing skills that, with practice, will become as natural as breathing. The life that's waiting for you. Imagine for a moment what your life will look like as you continue to practice and integrate these skills. In your relationships, instead of arguments that leave everyone feeling hurt and misunderstood, you have conversations that deepen intimacy and trust. When conflicts arise, and they will, you navigate them with grace, curiosity, and genuine care for each other's perspectives. People feel safe being vulnerable with you because they know you won't react with judgment or defensiveness. In your work, you become known as someone who stays calm under pressure, who listens before speaking, who can navigate challenges without creating drama. Colleagues seek your input not just because of your expertise but because of your emotional wisdom. Stressful situations that used to derail you become opportunities to demonstrate your centered presence. In your parenting, your children watch you handle frustration with a pause and a deep breath instead of an explosion of emotion. They learn from your example that feelings are normal but reactions are choices. They grow up knowing it's possible to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings. In your daily life, the small irritations that used to ruin your mood, traffic jams, slow internet, long lines, become opportunities to practice patience and presence. You find peace in moments that used to stress you out. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances because you've developed unshakable inner resources. In your sense of self, you wake up each day knowing that whatever happens, you can handle it with wisdom and grace. You're no longer haunted by regretful words or actions because you've learned to pause and choose your responses. You feel aligned with your values because your actions consistently reflect who you really want to be. This isn't fantasy, this is what becomes possible when you consistently choose conscious response over unconscious reaction. Your ripple effect. But the transformation doesn't stop with you. When you change how you show up in the world, you create ripples that touch everyone around you. Your family experiences more peace and less drama. Children learn emotional regulation by watching you model it. Your partner feels more connected to you because you're truly present in conversations. Your friends seek you out during difficult times because they know you'll offer wisdom instead of just sympathy, perspective instead of just agreement. Your workplace becomes a little calmer, a little kinder, a little more productive because you're contributing solutions instead of reactive energy. Your community benefits from having one more person who responds to conflict with curiosity instead of defensiveness, who builds bridges instead of walls. You become part of the solution to a world that often feels divided and reactive. Not because you're preaching or trying to fix anyone else, but simply because you're living differently. The practice, not the perfection. As we conclude, I want to emphasize something crucial. This isn't about achieving some perfect state where you never feel triggered or never have emotional reactions. You're wonderfully, beautifully human, which means you'll continue to feel the full spectrum of emotions, sometimes intensely. This journey is about developing a different relationship with those emotions. Instead of being controlled by them, you learn to dance with them. Instead of being ashamed of them, you become curious about what they're trying to tell you. Instead of reacting from them, you learn to respond with them as part of your full human experience. You'll still have moments when you react instead of respond. You'll still sometimes say things you wish you could take back or handle situations in ways that don't reflect your best self. The difference is that these moments will become less frequent, less intense, and you'll recover from them more quickly. Most importantly, you'll treat yourself with compassion when they happen instead of harsh self-judgment. Because self-compassion isn't the enemy of growth, it's the foundation that makes sustainable growth possible. The neuroscience of hope. Here's something beautiful to remember: every time you choose to pause instead of react, you're literally rewiring your brain. Thanks to neuroplasticity, your brain is constantly forming new neural pathways based on what you practice. This means that what feels difficult now will become easier over time. What requires conscious effort today will become more automatic tomorrow. The pause that might feel forced or unnatural at first will eventually become your natural response to stress and conflict. You're not just changing your behavior, you're changing your brain. You're creating new defaults, new patterns, new ways of being that will serve you for the rest of your life. Your next right step. So what's your next step? Remember the one thing rule from the last chapter. Don't try to implement everything at once. Choose one practice that resonated most strongly with you. Maybe it's taking 3 conscious breaths before responding when you feel triggered. Maybe it's a daily 2-minute mindfulness practice to build your awareness muscle. Maybe it's applying the 24-hour rule to difficult communications. Maybe it's choosing one daily frustration as your patience training ground. Whatever you choose, commit to it for 30 days. Not perfectly, consistently. Track your progress, celebrate small wins, and be patient with yourself as these new neural pathways strengthen. After 30 days, you can add another practice. But not before. Building sustainable change is like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you add more floors. A personal message from me to you. Before we part ways, I want to share something personal with you. The skills in this book. I didn't learn them because I was naturally calm or emotionally balanced. I learned them because I desperately needed them. I was tired of being controlled by my emotions, tired of saying things I regretted, tired of conflicts that left relationships damaged. I was tired of being at the mercy of my reactions instead of being the conscious author of my responses. If these skills can transform someone like me, someone who used to be ruled by reactivity, they can transform anyone who's willing to practice them. Including you. You have everything you need to begin. You have the knowledge, the techniques, and most importantly, you have the innate human capacity to choose your responses. That capacity has always been there, waiting to be developed. The pause that changes everything. As we close, let's return to where we began, that moment between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. That moment is where your freedom lives. It's where your power resides. It's where transformation happens, one conscious choice at a time. In that brief pause, sometimes just seconds, you reclaim your agency from your circumstances, your wisdom from your wounds, your values from your impulses. In that pause, you become not just a person who knows about emotional intelligence, but someone who lives it. In that pause, you transform from someone who reacts to life into someone who responds with life, bringing your full consciousness, compassion, and wisdom to whatever arises. That pause, the pause that changes everything, is always available to you. Right now. In this moment. In every moment. Your journey of transformation begins not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. It begins now, with your next conscious breath, your next mindful choice, your next opportunity to pause and respond from your deepest wisdom. The life you want, characterized by inner peace, authentic relationships, clear decision-making, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever arises, it's not just possible. It's waiting for you to claim it. One pause at a time. One breath at a time. One conscious choice at a time. Welcome to the most important practice of your life. Welcome to the pause that changes everything. The transformation begins now.